There is a truth about attraction that has been hidden from you your entire life. It's not in the movies, it's not in self-help dating guides, and it's not in the words of well-meaning friends. It's a truth that most men will go to their graves never discovering, and because of that, they spend their lives chasing women in the wrong way, pouring their energy into gestures that were never going to work in the first place. You might have been told that being attractive means being the funniest, the richest, the fittest, or the best dressed. You might have been taught to shower women with compliments, to always agree with them, to cater to their every mood, thinking that doing so would earn their affection. But deep down, you've also seen it fail, in your own life or in the lives of men around you. The guy who bends over backwards to please a woman is often the same one she loses interest in. The man who would move mountains to win her over somehow ends up invisible in her eyes, while another man, without the same advantages, holds her attention effortlessly. This isn't luck. This isn't unfairness. This is psychology. And once you understand it, really understand it, you will never look at attraction the same way again. Right now, somewhere in the world, there's a man who is making a woman feel something she can't quite put into words, something more powerful than lust, deeper than comfort, beyond even the fuzzy storybook version of love. He's making her feel seen in a way that pierces through every wall she's built over years of disappointment and half-hearted romances. She feels drawn to him, not because of a new car, a symmetrical face, or a polished, pick-up routine, but because he understands something fundamental about human nature that most men ignore. And here's the kicker, it has nothing to do with manipulation and everything to do with the way you carry yourself, the way you see yourself, and the way you interact with women on the deepest psychological level. Before we go further, I need to warn you, the truth you're about to hear will make you see all your past efforts, the flowers, the endless texting, the eager availability, for what they really were, wasted energy. Not because you weren't good enough, but because you were aiming at the wrong target. Attraction is not a product of comfort. It's born in the space between uncertainty and possibility, in those moments where the mind is engaged, the emotions are stirred, and there's a challenge to rise to. A man who understands this will never have to convince a woman to be with him, she will be drawn in naturally. The first barrier we must demolish together is the validation trap, the single most common mistake men make without even knowing they are doing it. We grow up bombarded with messages that women want compliments, reassurance, constant demonstration of interest. Movies show the guy winning the girl by proving his devotion. Relationship advice columns tell men to make her feel special by constantly reminding her how amazing she is. The cultural script teaches you to give, but not in a way that creates desire. Here's the raw truth, over-validating a woman destroys attraction faster than almost anything else you can do. When every word that comes out of your mouth tells her she's already perfect, when you bend to agree with her before she even finishes a sentence, when you overload her with attention that she never had to earn, you signal something you never intended to, low value. And this isn't about arrogance on her part. It's about how the human brain is wired. We are programmed to value more what we have to earn. When something, or someone, is handed to us without effort, without challenge, the brain assigns it less worth. Think about it in your own life. The accomplishment that made your chest swell with pride wasn't the one given to you freely, it was the one you fought for, scrambled for, maybe even suffered for. That's human nature. And this applies to attraction. Attention that comes without her needing to earn it simply doesn't have the same impact. But I need to be crystal clear, this is not about being rude, dismissive, or playing childish, hard-to-get games. This is about inspiring someone to step up and show their best self. It's about sparking the inner feeling of, I want to be around this man because he inspires me to be more than I am now. That's the difference between the forgettable man and the unforgettable man. Imagine two men meeting a woman for the first time. She tells them she's a graphic designer. Man A's eyes light up and he says, "Wow, that's amazing. You must be so creative and talented. That's such a cool job." He's polite, warm, eager. Man B smirks slightly and says, "Graphic design, huh? So you're one of those people who can spend half a day debating shades of blue?" Then, after a pause, he asks, "So what kind of projects actually push you out of your comfort zone?" Same information received, two entirely different responses. One closes the book, the other opens a new chapter. Man A told her she's already there, already great. End of story. Man B playfully suggested that maybe there's more for her to reach for, and invited her to prove him wrong. One gave her nothing to chase, the other lit a spark of challenge. Guess which one she's thinking about hours later, replaying the moment, curious to see what else he might say. Attraction isn't built in the safety of total agreement, it's born in the aliveness of playful tension. The man who understands this never becomes a mirror, simply reflecting back what she already believes about herself. He becomes a catalyst, someone who carefully, kindly, but firmly disrupts the image she's settled for and gives her the gift of seeing a higher possibility. And here's the magic: once you practice this, it stops being a technique and becomes your natural way of being. You begin to carry yourself as a man who expects depth from the people around you, because you demand it of yourself. You see, being unforgettable isn't about trying to impress women. It's about daring to stand for something more than approval. It's about embodying standards, curiosity, and the courage to express what you actually think. It's about risk, the risk that she might not like you for it, and the quiet confidence of knowing you'll be fine either way. That independence of spirit is intoxicating. It says, without words, "I won't crumble if you walk away. I'm already whole." And paradoxically, that is what makes people want to draw closer. You must understand that attraction is not about ticking boxes on someone else's checklist, and it's certainly not about broadcasting every detail of yourself right away in the hope that transparency will spark connection. Real attraction lives in the space between what she knows and what she doesn't know about you. It thrives on curiosity, on the unspoken, on that lingering sense that there's more to discover, that you're a world she hasn't fully mapped yet. This is what I call the psychological gap, the invisible space that pulls people in, the same way a great story keeps you turning pages. Imagine her mind like a wire pulled taut between two poles, one is certainty, the other is mystery. Too much certainty, and the wire slackens, the tension is gone, the music stops playing. Too much mystery without substance, and the wire snaps into confusion or distrust. The sweet spot, the magnetic zone, is where she knows enough to feel safe and intrigued, but not so much that her mind can rest. She finds herself wondering about you while she's at work, in the middle of dinner with a friend, while brushing her teeth late at night. She replays something you said, considers what you might have meant, and then it hits her, she wants to know more. That is where obsession begins. And here's the thing, you can't fake this by memorizing lines or manufacturing quirks. The kind of mystery that lasts is born from genuine depth. A man with depth is not performing, he is living. His mystery is simply the side effect of a life richly lived, interests cultivated for their own sake, beliefs shaped by real thought, and experiences chosen out of passion, not for approval. She senses it. She can feel it in the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you're not frantically trying to be liked, you're just being. That is what separates the unforgettable from the forgettable. Most men make the mistake of thinking connection is about immediate openness, spilling their entire history on the first date, filling the silence with backstory as if the goal is to download every piece of information into her mind as quickly as possible. They think intimacy is built through constant emotional exposure. But intimacy without intrigue is just familiarity, and familiarity without challenge breeds boredom. Real closeness comes from a gradual revealing over time, allowing each layer to make her want to peel back the next. Think of it the way artists unveil a masterpiece. They don't do a grand reveal of the finished piece the moment you walk into the studio. They let you watch the brush move, revealing hints, shadows, shapes. You see enough to be hooked, enough to guess where it's going, but not enough to stop wondering. That's how you must live, not hiding, not pretending, but carrying yourself as a man whose inner world cannot be fully known in one sitting. You are not a solved puzzle by date number 2. You are a novel with many chapters, and she's just cracked open page 1. This doesn't mean you're aloof or cold. Presence is essential. When you're with her, you're all there, your attention, your curiosity, your energy. But you also leave space. You don't fill every gap in the conversation with stories from your past, you let her ask. You don't correct every assumption she makes about you, you let her wonder. You don't rush to align with her opinions, you let her see that you have your own, and that sometimes they're different. That space is where the magic happens. The mind craves resolution, and if she hasn't fully figured you out, she'll unconsciously keep seeking you. Not because you're manipulating her, but because a person rich with layers is endlessly compelling. You felt this yourself with people who fascinated you, maybe a mentor, a stranger you met in passing, a coworker with surprising hobbies. You remember the way their words lingered in your mind, the way you couldn't quite pin them down. That's the exact force you can embody when you stop chasing approval and start cultivating depth. Depth comes from living according to what truly matters to you. It comes from hobbies that feed your soul, values you won't compromise, challenges you actively choose, books you read because they intrigue you, not because they make you look impressive. It's in your ability to stand comfortably in silence, to be okay with not explaining yourself all the time. If you've built a life that fascinates you, it will fascinate others. If you've filled your inner world with meaning, people will want a ticket inside. And here's the truly powerful part, once you're living from that place, women will sense something different in you instantly. You won't feel like every other man they meet because you're not trying to present yourself, you're just living in alignment with yourself. That's the irresistible scent of authenticity mixed with intrigue. And it cannot be faked. There comes a moment in a man's life when he has to choose between chasing approval and owning his existence. That moment may not be obvious, there's no drumroll, no headline announcing it, but it is there nonetheless. It's the moment you realize that almost every choice you've been making has had one hidden motive, to be chosen. Maybe it's subtle. Maybe you tell yourself you're just being considerate or trying to be the best version of yourself, but deep down, you know the truth, you've been calibrating your every move to keep or win someone's affection. And while the world applauds this as romantic devotion, women see something else when they look closely. They don't see strength. They see need. They see a man who requires their approval the same way a drowning man requires air. And the moment a woman feels you need her to feel whole, something fundamental shifts in the dynamic. She unconsciously begins to lose the very desire you are trying so hard to inspire. This is not cruelty. This is not selfishness. This is ancient wiring. Attraction does not grow in the soil of dependency. It flourishes in the garden of sovereignty, when two separate, whole individuals choose to walk together out of desire, not necessity. The more you make her the sole nutrient in your soil, the more that soil dries up when she is not there. When you carry yourself this way, everything changes. Conversations are lighter because you're not filtering every word through the question, will she like me if I say this? Decisions are easier because your compass isn't spinning wildly, trying to match her preferences. Even disagreement becomes powerful because you're willing to hold a unique perspective without collapsing into apologetic backtracking. You stop fearing the distance between you because you know it is in that distance, that space, that desire breathes. Think about the times in your life when someone became more attractive to you the moment they demonstrated that they didn't need you, when their world kept spinning regardless of whether you were there or not. That tiny jolt inside you was a recognition of power, of self-possession, of sovereignty. What you felt in that moment is exactly what women feel when they meet a man whose life is already rich before she walks into it. And here is the paradox. Many men mistakenly believe that the more they prove their willingness to put her above everything else, the more she will value them. But the truth, the hard, counterintuitive truth, is that when she realizes you will abandon your passions, your friends, your principles, and your mission for her, she doesn't feel valued. She feels burdened. She feels the weight of being the sole source of your happiness, and that weight crushes attraction faster than any argument or flaw. But the sovereign man is different. He loves deeply, but from a position of wholeness. He gives generously, but never at the cost of his own center. His self-worth isn't for sale, and so it cannot be bought, traded, or manipulated. He is steady whether she stays or goes, and that steadiness frees her to want him rather than feel obligated to keep him afloat. This isn't about cold detachment. It's about warm independence. It's about smiling as you walk your own path, knowing that she is welcome to join you, but you will keep walking regardless. It's about creating a life so incredibly fulfilling that she doesn't complete it, she simply makes it even better. And this level of quiet confidence doesn't just attract women, it attracts respect, opportunity, and deep, lasting connections with everyone you meet. When you embody sovereignty, you stop chasing love and start inviting it. You stop gripping with anxious hands and instead stand open-palmed, knowing that what is truly meant for you will choose you just as much as you choose it. This is perhaps the most magnetic energy you can ever carry, not the hunger that begs to be fed, but the fullness that overflows and shares. And so you arrive here, at the very bedrock of what it means to be a man who doesn't just attract women, but who commands respect from the world and, most importantly, from himself. We have torn down the flimsy scaffolding of modern dating advice. We have looked behind the curtain of attraction and seen the raw, psychological machinery at work. But none of it, not the challenging banter, not the cultivated mystery, not the quiet independence, means anything if you see it as a set of tricks to be performed. This is not a costume you put on. This is the skin you were always meant to live in. This journey was never about learning how to get a woman. It was about unlearning all the ways you were taught to lose yourself. The validation trap, the psychological gap, sovereignty, these are not separate tactics. They are the natural symptoms of a man who has found his center. They are the echoes of a life lived with purpose. The man who has a mission bigger than any single relationship doesn't need to pretend to be a challenge, his focus on his goals is the challenge. The man who is genuinely fascinated by the world and his own growth doesn't need to manufacture mystery, his depth is the mystery. The man who has built his own emotional home, brick by painful brick, doesn't need to act independent, his sovereignty is the very air he breathes. You were taught to ask, what do women want? It is the wrong question. It is a question that positions you as a supplicant, a performer, a jester trying to win the favor of the court. The question that will change your life, the question that is the foundation of everything we have discussed, is this: who am I, and what am I building? When you have the answer to that, your entire world realigns. You stop seeing women as prizes to be won and start seeing them as people to be met. You stop viewing rejection as a verdict on your worth and start seeing it as a simple, painless indicator of incompatibility. You stop living in a state of anxious hope and begin operating from a place of grounded certainty. Not the certainty that you will get what you want, but the certainty that you will be okay even if you don't. And that, right there, is the energy that makes people lean in closer. It is the calm in the eye of the storm. Think of the men you admire, not just in romance, but in life. The leaders, the artists, the innovators. They do not walk around begging for approval. They are lit from within by a fire of their own making, a passion, a vision, a set of standards. They invite you to share in their warmth, but they will burn just as brightly if you choose to walk away. That is the man you are being called to become. So, where do you begin? Not on a dating app. Not in a bar. You begin in the quiet moments of your own life. You begin with a pen and a piece of paper. You begin with the terrifying, liberating question, what would I do with my life if I knew, with 100% certainty, that I would never have to worry about attracting a woman again? What would you build? What would you learn? What injustices would you fight? What adventures would you have? What conversations would you start? What would your body look and feel like? Who would your friends be? Write it down. Be brutally honest. That is your map. That is your mission. Your new life begins the moment you take the first step toward that vision, not for her, not for them, but for you. It begins when you pick up the guitar that's been gathering dust, not to impress a girl, but because your soul misses the music. It begins when you book the solo trip, not to post cool photos, but because a part of you needs to know it can rely on itself. It begins when you finally speak your uncensored opinion in a conversation, not to be provocative, but because you are done betraying your own thoughts for the sake of harmony. Every time you choose your purpose over your fear, you forge your sovereignty. Every time you invest in your own depth, you create the psychological gap. Every time you act from a place of self-respect instead of a need for validation, you break the trap. You will not be perfect. You will stumble. Old habits will call to you like ghosts in the night. The urge to seek approval is a deeply human one. But now, you know the truth. You cannot unsee it. You now understand that the validation you were chasing from others was a cheap and fleeting substitute for the unshakable respect you must build for yourself. Stop chasing butterflies. Start building a garden. The man you are capable of being is not a fantasy. He is a choice. He is a commitment. He is 1,000 small acts of courage that lead to a life of undeniable power. He doesn't hope to be chosen. He is the one who chooses. And when a woman meets that man, she doesn't just feel attraction. She feels inspiration. She feels that in his presence, she too is called to become more. That is the greatest gift you can give to anyone, and it is the legacy of a man who has dared to become fully himself. The world is full of boys waiting for permission. It is starving for men who are living their answer. Now, go live yours.